The man who once said she'd never belong was now watching her take his place. The ballroom fell into silence as the spotlight moved. It stopped at a woman in a deep crimson suit, her steps calm and unshaken. Danielle Brooks. Beside her stood a tall, steady man, Will Carter, and holding her hands, 3 boys, each one with the same deep-set eyes and square jawline as Andrew Whitmore. Andrew stood frozen near the front row, the champagne in his hand trembling. The host's voice echoed, "Please welcome the new CEO of Whitmore Capital, Danielle Brooks." Gasps. Cameras flashed. Someone dropped a glass. Danielle didn't flinch. She scanned the room, locking eyes with Andrew. The boys looked up at her. She gave a soft nod. Andrew's face turned pale. His empire of silence had just collapsed, under the spotlight of everything he tried to ignore. And this was only the beginning. Danielle Brooks was born in a 1-bedroom apartment in the Bronx. Peeling paint on the walls, heat that clicked on only when the pipes rattled hard enough. Her mother, Gloria, worked 2 shifts at a nursing home just to keep the lights on. Danielle didn't complain. She read under street lamps when the power was cut. She memorized vocabulary lists while folding laundry for neighbors. At 17, she graduated valedictorian. A scholarship to NYU followed. Marketing major, top of her class, internship every summer. No shortcuts, no handouts, just grind. By 22, she walked across the graduation stage in borrowed heels. Her mother cried in the back row, whispering, "That's my girl." Danielle had plans, big ones. She wouldn't just escape the Bronx. She'd rewrite her future, one step, one win, one boundary at a time. Whitmore Capital was marble floors, glass walls, and perfect silence. Danielle stepped in wearing her best thrift store blazer and nerves wrapped tight around her spine. She started as a junior analyst, one of the youngest, one of the only black women. Within weeks, her reports turned heads. Numbers, strategy, language, she made data speak. That's when Andrew Whitmore noticed her. 32, Harvard, family money, tailored suits and teeth like polished marble. He was everything she wasn't. Born at the top, confident without trying. And yet he lingered during her presentations. He asked questions. He remembered small details. The intern from the Bronx became the name on his lips in every meeting. Danielle felt the shift. The room began to tilt in her favor. For the first time, she wasn't just trying to belong. She was being seen. They fell into each other slowly. Late nights at the office turned into quiet dinners. Emails became glances. Glances became something more. By the end of that year, Danielle moved into Andrew's Beacon Hill condo. Hardwood floors, rooftop view, a place where the door didn't creak and heat came on without asking. Mornings were French press coffee. Nights were jazz and shared silence. He said she made him feel real. At first they kept it quiet, but whispers at the office grew louder. A junior analyst and the CEO, unspoken lines were being crossed. Danielle tried to stay focused. She told herself, let the work speak, but her name started to echo in bathrooms and break rooms. Still, for a while, she believed love could outshine the whispers. She thought this was her moment, maybe even the moment. The test was positive. Then the second, then the scan, 3 heartbeats. Danielle sat across from Andrew at their kitchen island, hands trembling, eyes hopeful. "I'm pregnant," she said, voice quiet but steady. "It's triplets." A long pause. Andrew blinked once, then again. His jaw tightened. "Are you sure they're mine?" Silence dropped like a stone between them. Danielle froze. She had imagined shock, maybe fear, but not this, not that question, not that tone. She managed, "Of course they're yours." He stood, pushed his chair back slowly, and walked to the window. Cold glass, city lights, distance, no congratulations, no embrace. Just the echo of one sentence Danielle couldn't unhear. In that moment, something shifted inside her. Not broken, but cracked. And cracks always spread. The check sat on the marble counter, $500,000. No note, just his signature in clean, sharp ink. Andrew didn't look at her. "You can leave Boston, start over. That should cover everything." Danielle stared at the paper, her stomach twisting. "You're paying me to disappear?" He shrugged. "It's better for both of us, for your reputation and mine." She tore the check in half. He didn't flinch. An hour later, her keycard stopped working. By midnight, her bank account showed 0. She stood outside the condo with 2 suitcases and a silence so thick it hurt her chest. The city was cold, her phone at 2% battery. No plan, no place. The man who once held her every night had erased her, without warning, without shame. And still, something in her refused to break. She spent 3 nights on the floor of South Station. 1 hoodie, 1 backpack, no heat. The station lights stayed on all night. So did the ache in her lower back. The babies kicked softly, as if asking where they were going. By the 4th morning, Danielle gave in. She borrowed a stranger's phone. Hands shaking, voice low. "Mom, I need to come home." Gloria didn't ask questions, just said, "Where are you?" Danielle boarded a Greyhound that afternoon. The bus rattled. Her body ached. She sat by the window, forehead pressed to the glass. The city blurred past. Her dreams, her pride, her illusion of control. Tears came quietly. Not loud sobs, just water falling from somewhere deep. She wasn't running. She was retreating to the only place still willing to love her. The Bronx smelled like fried onions and rain. Same cracked sidewalk, same flickering porch light. Gloria opened the door wearing her faded pink robe. No surprise, no questions. Just opened her arms and said, "You hungry?" Danielle nodded. They sat at the kitchen table like old times. Plastic placemats, chipped mug, gospel playing low from the radio. Gloria talked about the neighbors, her church choir, the price of eggs. Not once did she ask why Danielle had come back. Danielle smiled when she had to, laughed once even. But she never said the words, "He left me." She kept the pain zipped and stayed like a coat she couldn't take off. That night, in her childhood bedroom with the peeling wallpaper and creaky bed frame, Danielle placed a hand on her belly and whispered, "I'll figure this out. Somehow." Danielle sent out 47 resumes in 2 weeks. Nothing. She showed up to interviews in flats and a stretched blazer, stomach just starting to show. Smiles faded once they saw the bump. "Thank you for coming. We'll be in touch." But they never were. Then came the whispers. Former Whitmore employee. Left suddenly. Rumors of unprofessional conduct. Andrew had gotten ahead of the story. One recruiter leaned in and said, "I'd be careful who you mention as references." Doors shut before she even knocked. Her name, once tied to promise, was now a quiet red flag. Danielle started to understand this wasn't just bad luck. It was designed. Punishment for not disappearing. She sat at the edge of her bed that night, hands on her knees, and asked the air, "What now?" But silence doesn't answer back. Danielle finally found work. A receptionist job at a dental clinic, $16 an hour. No benefits, no questions. She stood on her feet 8 hours a day, smiling through back pain and swelling ankles. The uniform barely fit. Patients stared but never asked. At night, she wrote marketing copy for small businesses, menus, flyers, social posts, cheap gigs, fast turnaround, $25 here, $40 there. She slept in 2 shifts, 2 a.m. to 4, then again from 5 to 7. Her body ached, her vision blurred. But she kept going, because diapers cost money, so did vitamins and rent and being ignored by the world. Every dollar was a fight, every breath a push uphill. She wasn't chasing success anymore, she was just trying to survive. And survival, she learned, is louder when no one's listening. At 6 months, Danielle's legs began to swell. Her headaches lasted all day. She chalked it up to exhaustion until she nearly fainted walking up the clinic stairs. The doctor frowned at her chart. "Your blood pressure's dangerously high. With triplets, that's, serious." Words like preterm, NICU, and organ risk floated in the air, heavy, clinical, cold. "You need rest," he said. "Real rest." But rest didn't pay for rent, or food, or anything at all. Danielle nodded, took the pamphlets, and walked out without a word. On the train ride home, she held her belly like it might fall apart if she let go. She whispered to them, "Stay with me, okay?" 'Cause quitting wasn't an option, but neither was dying. And in that quiet between fear and love, she kept moving. Danielle heard the warnings, she read the risks, but every time she thought about stopping, a number popped into her head. 3. 3 cribs, 3 bottles, 3 lives depending on her. So she kept clocking in. Her belly pressed against the desk, her ankles ached before noon. Some days her hands trembled too much to type. Coworkers whispered behind her back. Patients stared longer than they should. But Danielle stayed quiet, polite, focused. 'Cause if she left, who would catch her? There was no backup plan, no second income, no Andrew. Every tired step was a promise. "I'll carry you, even if it breaks me." Danielle didn't see herself as brave. She saw herself as a mother. And mothers don't quit. Not when little hearts are counting on them. It was past midnight. Danielle sat alone, sorting invoices in low light. Her phone buzzed. A headline. Andrew Whitmore marries socialite heiress in private vineyard ceremony. A perfect photo. His smile, her diamond, the kind of life Danielle was never meant to keep. She stared at the screen, heart steady now. Not broken, just done by She opened a blank notebook and wrote 2 words in bold. Triad Solutions. 3 children, 3 futures, 1 company. Hers, no pitch, no investors, just an idea. Marketing with empathy. Strategy built from survival. Voice driven by truth. That night she didn't cry. She built. With every line she poured her silence, her scars, and the way it felt to be erased. She didn't know how yet, but she would find a way. 'Cause pain doesn't have to stay pain. It can be blueprint. It can be fire. Her water broke at 31 weeks. No warning, no time. The delivery room spun. Bright lights, blue scrubs, voices moving too fast. Danielle barely registered the sound of 3 tiny cries before they were rushed away. NICU, Malik, Isaiah, Caleb, tubes, monitors, machines breathing for them each day, $15,000, each hour, fear. A nurse handed her a clipboard of forms. Insurance. She shook her head. The nurse hesitated. We'll do what we can. Danielle sat alone in the hospital cafeteria, a vending machine sandwich untouched beside her. She held the NICU wristbands like they were gold. The silence around her wasn't peaceful. It was crushing. Her body had given out. The system had shut its doors. But her babies? They were fighting. So she would too, no matter the cost. The NICU was quiet except for the steady beep of machines. Danielle sat beside 3 clear incubators, each no bigger than a drawer. Tiny fists. See-through skin. Breathing with help. She whispered their names aloud for the first time. Malik, the strongest heartbeat. Isaiah, the quiet one, always still. Caleb. The fighter, born last, but loudest, no ceremony, no family around. Just a mother, a chair, and the weight of love. She traced their names in a notebook, each letter written slow, like a promise. I see you, she said softly. I know who you are. They didn't open their eyes, but something inside her settled. In that sterile room, beneath fluorescent lights, she felt the world shift. Not broken, not alone, just 3 names, and a reason to rise. The hospital called, a balance of $93,000. We need a payment plan, they said. Danielle nodded, though she had no plan. Only $22 in her account and rent due in 4 days. Then came the final email. You've been removed from the clinic schedule. No warning, no explanation, just gone. She sat on the edge of her bed, the room dim, her body still sore from the birth. She opened her bank app again, still empty, a red line across the top. Her freelance clients had moved on. Bills stacked like threats. She looked at the NICU wristbands lined on her windowsill. Malik, Isaiah, Caleb. Even strength has a breaking point. But mothers don't get that option. She wasn't just broke, she was invisible. And still, they needed her. Desperate and out of options, Danielle opened her old laptop. Slow, cracked screen. Still worked. She scrolled through contacts until one name stopped her. Will Carter. Andrew's former mentor. Respected. Sharp. The kind of man who listened when no one else did. They met once. Briefly. A pitch meeting. Danielle had spoken. Will had watched. He would said, "You think like a founder?" Then smiled and left. She hesitated, then typed, "Hi, Mr. Carter. This is Danielle Brooks. I don't know if you remember me, but I have an idea and I need help." She clicked send. 5 hours passed. Then, "Let's talk tomorrow, noon. Don't bring a deck, bring the truth." Danielle stared at the screen. Her heart didn't race. It anchored. One door had cracked open, just wide enough. Will read her pitch in silence, no notes, no questions. Danielle sat across from him in a borrowed blazer, heart calm but hands clenched beneath the table. Finally he said, "You didn't write a strategy. You wrote a weapon." He offered a trial. 1 campaign, 1 week, 1 shot. A failing startup he'd invested in needed traction. "If you can move the needle," he said, "we talk next steps." Danielle worked from her mother's kitchen, whiteboard by the fridge, baby monitor beside her laptop. Midnight emails, 4 a.m. edits, cold coffee, and louder prayers. By Friday, user engagement had doubled. Sales ticked up. Retention jumped. Will called her again. "I want in. Let's build this." And just like that, Triad Solutions was born. No capital, no office, just heart, grit, and 3 names behind the name. 3 weeks in, Triad Solutions wasn't just working. It was moving. Client sales jumped 87%. Churn dropped. Social buzz grew. Startups started calling, asking who's behind this. Danielle didn't have a fancy office or a team, just a cracked laptop, a prepaid phone, and her notebook full of lived experience turned into strategy. She tracked every metric, every win. This wasn't luck, it was skill. Will watched quietly from the side. On a call one morning, he said, "You've done more with scraps than most do with millions." Then came the offer. "I want to invest. Real money. You lead, I back you. Let's scale." Danielle paused. Not because she doubted him, but because for the first time in months, someone believed in her as much as she believed in herself. She signed the papers at City Hall. Triad Solutions, LLC. Official, real. Danielle rented a one-room office above a laundromat, peeling paint, flickering lights. But it had a lock, Wi-Fi, and just enough space for her and the boys. In the corner, 3 bassinets lined up beside her desk. Bottles in the mini-fridge. Diapers stacked next to pitch decks. While she built funnels and wrote brand stories, Malik napped. Isaiah kicked quietly in his sleep. Caleb cried through client calls, and she muted, rocked, typed. She didn't separate work and motherhood. She couldn't, so she blended them. Clients never saw the whole picture. But in that little room, every campaign, every click, every line of code came with lullabies in the background. It wasn't polished, but it was hers, and it was working. Danielle reviewed applications late into the night. She wasn't just hiring talent. She was building a foundation. Marcus stood out. Brilliant back-end developer, clean code, sharp thinking, rejected from 5 firms in 3 months. Too many not the right fit replies. He didn't need to say why. Danielle already knew. They met in a cafe. Marcus wore a hoodie and carried silence like armor. "You're overqualified," she said. He shrugged. "I'm overlooked." She smiled. "Not here." By the end of the week, Marcus had built Triad's new client portal. Faster, cleaner, smarter. But more than that, he brought grit, vision, fire. Danielle wasn't just hiring for skill. She was hiring for justice. If the world didn't make room for people like them, she'd build something better. One hire at a time. In 4 months, Triad Solutions went from 2 clients to 11. No ads, no press, just results. Danielle and Marcus worked around the clock. Gloria watched the boys during late meetings, bottles and Kaid, and Zoom calls with baby cries in the background. But what really changed the game was emotional IQ, a proprietary algorithm Danielle designed. It didn't just track data. It read tone, timing, human context. It predicted what mattered, not just what clicked. Clients called it magic. It wasn't. It was survival turned into science. Danielle's lived experience converted into code. A system built on empathy, not ego. Other firms sold reach. Triad sold resonance. And in a space crowded with noise, that difference was everything. Their secret weapon wasn't a product. It was perspective. One evening, Will called. "There's a tech conference next month," he said. "Industry leaders, VC firms, media. I want you on that stage." Danielle paused. "Monsieur, you built a company from nothing. You built this. The world should see it." She hesitated. Public stages still felt distant, like rooms never meant for women like her. But Will didn't push. He just said, "You're ready." She hung up and looked at the boys asleep on the floor. Caleb clutched a sock. Malik snored. Isaiah had one eye half open. She whispered, "We're not hiding anymore." The next morning she confirmed her spot. Keynote, full slot, prime hour. She had no idea who would be sitting in the front row, no clue what was coming. But for once, Danielle wasn't walking into a room as someone's shadow. She was stepping in as the storm. Danielle stood beneath the stage lights, palms dry, voice steady. She spoke about Triad, about emotional IQ, about building with babies in the background. No buzzwords, just truth. When she stepped off stage, the applause followed her down the hall. Will waited near the exit, arms crossed, eyes smiling. He didn't say much, just handed her a folded napkin. She opened it. "I want to invest $50 million. No pitch, no pressure, just belief. Serious, quiet, real. Danielle blinked once. "Are you sure?" Will nodded. "You don't just have a company, you have the future." She folded the napkin slowly and put it in her coat pocket, right next to the Nikki wristbands she still carried. It wasn't about the number. It was the first time someone wrote her worth in ink, and meant it. The wire hit her account on a Tuesday morning. Danielle stared at the numbers for a full minute, not blinking. Then she got to work. A month later, Triad Solutions moved into the Flatiron building. Glass doors, clean desks, real reception. Her name on the directory in silver print, Danielle Brooks, CEO. She walked the halls in heels she bought herself, not borrowed. Boardroom glass reflected her new suit, but the fire in her eyes was still the same Bronx girl who wrote strategy next to bottle warmers. Marcus led a growing Deva team. Gloria managed the family suite, an entire floor with cribs, playpens, and soft jazz. Danielle didn't just level up, she took the whole system with her. This wasn't survival anymore, this was legacy, just getting started. Malik, Isaiah, and Caleb were now 5. Bright eyes, sharp minds, uniforms crisp, shoes clean. They got into one of the top schools in the city, not from donations, not from legacy, but from merit and grit, just like their mother. Every morning, Danielle packed their lunches herself, buckled their seatbelts, waited in the carpool line. Every afternoon she was there at pickup, phone silenced, arms open. She never missed a recital, never skipped a parent-teacher meeting. Even board meetings were rescheduled, because once in that hospital room she made a promise, I'll be there for everything. And she kept it. The world saw a powerhouse CEO, investors, a rainmaker, competitors, a storm, but 3 little boys, they just saw mommy, always on time, always enough. One evening, after the boys were asleep and the office lights dimmed, Will handed Danielle a slim envelope. Inside, no diamond, no Neil, just one line typed on elegant paper. Proposal for a lifelong partnership, terms negotiable, love non-refundable. She laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. I'm serious, he said, smiling. Not just business, life, all of it, with you. She stared at him, heart quiet, eyes warm. There were no fireworks, no grand speeches, just peace. Weeks later, they married in a quiet garden behind Gloria's church. Malik dropped the rings. Caleb sneezed during vows. Isaiah asked for snacks mid-ceremony. Danielle wore a simple white dress and a look she had earned. Whole, steady, ready, not rescued, not saved, chosen by herself first, then by love that saw all of her. Over dinner one night, between Caleb's knock-knock jokes and Malik's spilled juice, Will leaned closer and slid a folder across the table. Thought you'd want to see this. Inside, quarterly reports, market losses, internal memos. Whitmore Capital was bleeding, declining assets, talent exodus, lawsuits pending. The empire Andrew built on charm and silence was quietly collapsing. Danielle scanned the pages. Calm, focused. Will said softly, They have burned through the 2 CMOs in 8 months. Emotional IQ would have saved them. But they dismissed it. She closed the folder and looked out the window. The city lights blinked like signals from a past she no longer feared. This wasn't revenge. It was consequence, finally catching up. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to finish what life had already started. The offer was strategic, cold, undeniable. Triad Solutions would acquire Whitmore Capital's remaining assets for pennies on the dollar. Andrew never saw the proposal coming. His name, once bold in headlines, now buried under financial losses and quiet exits. Danielle signed the deal in silence, pen steady. No celebration. No vengeance in her eyes. Just clarity. A company that once erased her was now hers to absorb, to rebuild, or to bury. The board didn't protest. They needed a lifeline. Danielle was the lifeline. In the press release, her statement was short. This is not a takeover, it's a transition toward accountability, vision, and dignity. No one clapped. But in rooms she once couldn't enter, people finally stood when she walked in. She didn't return to Whitmore for revenge. She came back for ownership. Danielle didn't leak the news. She didn't tweet, didn't brief the press. Instead, she chose silence until the perfect moment. The Global Finance and Tech Forum. Packed room, top executives, cameras rolling, and Andrew Whitmore listed as a featured speaker. Will raised an eyebrow when she told him. You sure? She nodded. He built his name on that stage, and I'll close the chapter on it. She rehearsed once, then once more, not for polish, but for precision. No fury in her tone, no theatrics, just the weight of truth, sharpened over years. Marcus built the slides, Gloria picked the outfit, the boys practiced clapping in sync. As the countdown ticked toward keynote hour, whispers spread fast. Danielle Brooks is about to say something. No one knew what, but everyone would be watching. The morning of the keynote, the city buzzed with cold air and sharper eyes. Danielle stepped into her suit, deep red, perfectly cut. Not flashy, just undeniable. Gloria tied her hair back. Will adjusted her mic. The boys? Dressed in tiny tailored vests, matching socks, and quiet excitement. Mullet carried the clicker. Caleb held the wristbands. Isaiah kept count of the steps. They moved through the backstage hallway like a unit. No handlers, no chaos, just family. The crowd stirred as the doors opened. Phones lifted, conversations paused, and then they saw it. A mother, a founder, 3 sons walking proudly beside her, not behind. Beside. Danielle didn't say a word yet. She didn't need to, because some entrances don't announce themselves with sound. They arrive as silence no one dares interrupt. Andrew sat in the second row, stiff in his seat, expression unreadable. The red suit caught his eye first, then the boys, then her. Danielle stepped to the podium, steady and unshaken. She let the room settle, let the cameras lock in. Then, calm, clear, without flinch, she spoke. Years ago, someone told me I wasn't enough, that I didn't belong in rooms like this, that I should disappear. She paused, eyes sweeping the crowd, then landing directly on him. Today, I officially own the company he built. Gasps cut through the air, phones lit up. Andrew didn't move, didn't blink. Danielle let the silence throb, let the truth settle deep, not vengeance. Just full circle clarity. To every woman ever told to shrink, don't. Grow so large they have no choice but to see you. Danielle clicked to the final slide. 3 photos appeared. Malik, Isaiah, Caleb, smiling, proud, alive. She turned to the audience. Before I close, I'd like to introduce Triad's newest shareholders. The room laughed lightly until she stepped aside and motioned toward the boys. They walked up, each holding a tiny briefcase. Meet our junior shareholders. Each holds a legal stake in the company that once refused to recognize their existence. Murmurs turned to stunned silence. Danielle glanced at Andrew, voice soft but firm. And starting next quarter, all division leaders, including former executives, will present quarterly updates to the board. That includes reporting to these 3. Andrew's jaw tightened. No words came. Danielle smiled just a little, not to humiliate, but to seal the truth. The children he tried to erase were now his final audience. After the event, Andrew waited near the exit, eyes lowered, voice stripped of pride. Danielle, he said, I know I don't deserve it, but I'd like a chance to be part of their lives. She looked at him. Not angry, not cold, just finished. You had your chance, she said quietly. When I was sleeping on a bus, when your sons were in Nikyuku, you chose silence. He reached for words, but none landed. Danielle stepped closer, firm but kind. They already have a father, one who fed them, rocked them, showed up. She nodded toward the back of the room, where Will stood, hand in hand with the boys. Charles is their dad, in every way that matters. Andrew didn't argue, because some doors don't slam, they simply don't open again. As the crowd thinned and the lights dimmed, Danielle reached into her wallet, folded deep between business cards and baby photos, a torn, faded sticky note. 4 words scribbled years ago in sharp ink. You were never enough. She stared at it one last time. Not with pain, not even anger, just peace. Danielle held it between her fingers, breathed in and slowly tore it in half. Then again and again, until it was dust between her palms. No speech, no applause, just release. She didn't need to prove anything anymore. Not to him, not to the world, because the note had never been true. And finally, it no longer lived in her pocket. Golden chandeliers, velvet chairs, the plaza glowing like history itself. Danielle stood at the podium in a silk gown. Not borrowed, not sponsored, hers. A room full of CEOs, senators, and icons rose to their feet as the announcer's voice echoed, Woman of the Year, Danielle Brooks. Flashes, applause, tears she didn't wipe away. She scanned the crowd. Marcus nodded from the back. Gloria pressed her hands to her chest. Will mouthed, Told you so. In the front row, 3 little boys stood tall in tuxedos, clapping like the world was cheering for their mom. And it was. Danielle spoke softly. I wasn't supposed to be here, but I stopped waiting for permission, and I built the door myself. No one sat down for a long time, because she wasn't just the woman of the year, she was the proof. The room was still. Danielle leaned into the mic, voice calm, full, not loud. Let me be clear, she began. This isn't a story of raid or revenge. A pause, no one moved. It's a story about choosing not to break. About carrying pain without letting it carry you. About building, not from spite, but from purpose. She glanced at her sons, at Will, at the sea of faces now fully silent. The world told me I wasn't enough, so I stopped asking the world. This is not a comeback. It's a confirmation of what happens when we trust the strength already inside us. Her voice didn't shake. Her shoulders didn't bend. She wasn't rising anymore. She had arrived, and she brought others with her. While applause roared behind him, Andrew slipped out a side door. No cameras, no entourage, just silence and the echo of what he lost, and what he never earned. He didn't blame her, couldn't. For the first time in years, he wasn't angry, just small, and still. At a diner 2 blocks away, he sat alone, staring at black coffee gone cold. Then he opened his phone, not to scroll, but to search. Volunteer shelters near me. Therapy for men dealing with regret. How to start again, quietly. No headlines would follow this chapter, no fanfare. But that was fine. Some journeys don't begin with applause. They begin with an apology. And for Andrew Whitmore, this was day one of becoming someone his sons might one day forgive. Sunlight poured through the tall windows of their new apartment. Soft, golden, forgiving. Malik built towers from wooden blocks. Isaiah chased bubbles across the rug. Caleb hummed to himself, feet dangling from the couch. Laughter filled the room, no tension, no weight. Danielle stood by the window, one hand wrapped around a warm mug, the other resting gently on her heart. Outside, the city moved fast, but inside, time slowed. On purpose. No alarms, no fires to put out, just life as it always should have been. She smiled, not the kind meant for cameras or crowds, but one made of breath and earned rest. Behind her, 3 voices called, "Mom!" in unison. She turned, no longer carrying the past, only the peace of finally arriving home. Danielle sat on the edge of the couch, camera steady, eyes calm. No script, no filter, just her. She looked straight ahead, voice gentle, measured but full. "If you've ever been told you're not enough," she said, "if you've ever been underestimated, dismissed, or made to feel small." She paused, just enough for the silence to land. "I see you. I was you." A breath. "Comment below, I am enough. So I know you're still in the fight. So you know you're not fighting alone." She held her gaze, then smiled, quiet and whole. Not because the story was perfect, but because she no longer needed it to be. She had rewritten the ending, and now it belonged to all of us.